Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're zooming in on just 14 profound words. Now, you might usually see a quote like this plastered on some sunset poster in a corporate break room, or maybe as a cheesy inspirational post online. But we're not doing cheap motivation today. Instead, we're going to look at these words through the highly analytical, calculated, and, let's be honest, slightly ruthless lens of a 30-year career in actuarial science and risk management. Because as it turns out, some of the absolute best life advice you can ever get isn't just poetic. It's actually rooted deeply in hard mathematics, probability, and cold, calculating logic.
So, let's dive right into our source material. The sentence is, "Don't be afraid to give up the good to go for the great." At first glance, it sounds like a catchy aphorism you've heard 1,000 times. But when you unpack this through the eyes of someone who assesses risk for a living, someone whose entire job is to price out danger, you realize it's actually a precise mathematical blueprint for maximizing your long-term potential. We're going to let the sheer weight of this phrase set the stage for our entire analysis today.
First up, Section 1, the Actuary's Dilemma.
You know, over 3 decades of managing risk, you learn a fundamental truth that actively contradicts how most of us live our everyday lives. And that truth is this: avoiding all danger is not the actual goal. Why? Because avoiding all danger mathematically means avoiding all growth. You can see this evolution clearly over a typical career timeline. At year 0, you're just trying not to mess up, mastering those safe formulas. By year 10, you've found your footing, right? You're consolidating stable data and building a comfortable foundation. But then, right around year 20, you hit the plateau. You realize that playing it totally safe has completely capped your potential. By year 30, if you've truly evolved, you aren't just surviving the numbers anymore. You are actively seeking calculated complex breakthroughs. You're hunting for what mathematicians call the global maximum.
Which brings us to Section 2, Analyzing the Anatomy of Fear.
To really get why this evolutionary leap is so incredibly hard, we have to break down the first part of our quote. The command is simple: don't be afraid. But let's ask ourselves a highly practical question. When an actuary, or really any professional, looks at a perfectly stable, reliable dataset, a situation that is working just fine, why does the mere idea of changing it trigger such a visceral hesitation? Why do we freeze up when things are just okay?
Well, fear in this context is simply risk aversion. It's not a phobia. It's our hardwired statistical instinct to fiercely protect the safety of what we already possess. We absolutely crave certainty. Our predictable systems become our safety blanket, and our brains naturally treat any incoming volatility like a mortal threat to our survival. Even if that so-called threat is literally just a new career move. We cling to the known because the known is safe, and our biology absolutely despises unpredictability.
Moving on to Section 3, the allure of the good.
Understanding why we cling to certainty reveals the most hypnotic, insidious trap in both risk management and personal growth. The quote tells us we have to, quote, give up the good. But relinquishing the good is ridiculously hard. And it's hard because the good is comfortable. It's perfectly backed by historical stable data. It pays the bills, it keeps the lights on, and it doesn't make you lose sleep at 2 in the morning. By all standard metrics, it is a completely acceptable place to just park your life.
In actuarial terms, we call the good a local maximum. Imagine you're standing on top of a small hill. From your limited viewpoint, it feels like the pinnacle of the world, right? Because any immediate step in any direction is a step down. It feels optimal. But mathematically, it's merely a local peak. By refusing to walk down off that hill into the valley, you completely restrict yourself from ever climbing the massive, true mountain looming on the wider horizon. The good basically tricks you into thinking you've arrived.
When we weigh this trap out, the trade-off is glaringly obvious. When you choose to stay in the good, your predictability is incredibly high. Your day-to-day comfort is sky-high. You know exactly what tomorrow looks like. But your potential for long-term transformative growth, that has completely flatlined. It is an actuarial dead end. You have effectively and voluntarily traded your ceiling for a very, very comfortable floor.
Section 4, the cost of settling.
Staying comfortably anchored at that local peak might feel safe right now, but it carries a massive hidden danger when you stretch the timeline out over 30 years. Enter opportunity cost. This is the cold, hard reality that refusing to give up the good mathematically guarantees, well, actually, it guarantees you will never achieve anything better. The cost isn't what you're losing today, it's the massive compounding loss of potential breakthroughs that you will literally never experience, all because you consistently chose the safest alternative every single time.
The stark reality of our choices becomes undeniable when we run the numbers. If your action is simply staying in the good,
Your short-term result is zero immediate loss. You feel incredibly safe today, but your long-term horizon is guaranteed stagnation. Conversely, if you make the leap, if you give it up, yes, you are going to face temporary volatility. You have to walk down into that valley, but your long-term horizon instantly opens up to a chance at exponential reward. Actuarially speaking, the most dangerous risk isn't leaving the good. The real danger is settling for it indefinitely.
Section 5. Defining the great.
So, what are we actually risking everything for? The quote concludes by urging us to go for the great. In our framework, the great represents those expansive, bold horizons. It's the complex, deeply rewarding breakthroughs that don't just add a marginal percentage point to your returns, but entirely redefine your career, your business, or your life trajectory. It's the ultimate payout that makes crossing the valley completely worth it.
Now, mathematically, the great is your global maximum. It's the absolute highest peak of achievement possible. But here is the critical catch that traps so many of us. Reaching that global maximum almost always requires a temporary descent into uncertainty. You simply cannot leap directly from peak to peak. Gravity and math just do not work that way. You absolutely must step down from the safety of your current comfortable plateau, brave the unpredictable valley, and begin the much steeper climb to the top.
And that's the fundamental juxtaposition of our source material. On one hand, you have the good. It's confined by safe, stable, predictable data. It's a closed loop where nothing unexpected happens. On the other hand, you have the great, defined by expansive horizons, complex breakthroughs, and limitless rewards. The transition between these two isn't just a matter of bravery. It requires a fundamental shift in how you tolerate variance and uncertainty in your everyday life.
Section 6. The calculated leap.
Okay, let's make this actionable, because leaving the good for the great should never, ever be an impulsive, blind jump. In professional risk management, leaving the good is a highly structured, carefully calculated process. Step 1, you quantify the stagnation of your current situation. Figure out exactly what it's costing you to stay put. Step 2, you rigorously model the temporary volatility required. You anticipate how deep that valley is going to be. And Step 3, you execute the leap toward the great, knowing full well that over the long term, the math is entirely on your side.
When we dissect the anatomy of going for the great, you realize it's really not about being fearless. The vast majority of the decision, around 65%, is driven by purely calculated risk based on data. Another 25% is a conscious acknowledgement of acceptable volatility, just knowing things will get bumpy. That leaves a mere 10% to blind fear. By front-loading the math and the strategy, you effectively shrink that fear down to a manageable size, making the transition an exercise in pure logic rather than a test of raw emotion. So, we return one last time to our original source text. Don't be afraid to give up the good to go for the great. We now understand this isn't merely a pleasant quote to hang on a wall. It is a fundamental mathematical prerequisite for achieving excellence. It is the actuary's most carefully guarded secret, proven over decades of analyzing human behavior. The absolute greatest risk of all, for sure, is taking no risk at all.
I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought as we wrap up this explainer. Take a close look at your own life's data today. Are you optimizing your daily decisions just to protect the safety of the good? Or are you deliberately calculating the risk required to traverse that valley and reach your great? Ask yourself what the true, long-term opportunity cost is if you spend your entire life parked on a local maximum. Thanks for joining me today, and I challenge you to go run those numbers for yourself.